Lesson 3, Chapter 1 of Making of America. We now look at one of our racial groups that we're going to follow all the way through our course, and that's Black Americans, African Americans. All right, so key concept here, exploitation. Slaves, Black Americans, were exploited by the whites in the South for profit. Those slaves lived on cotton plantations and they picked cotton. Right, cotton is grown. And we're going to see that through a series of information, obviously, through this lesson. So we start with a bit of an iconic picture. Right, we've got the whites on horseback. We've then got the slaves chained, and you can see the chain running through, being marched through the southern states. As I keep saying, the southern states. This is where slavery existed. And this is our key concept. We're going to come back to, we're going to look at it in chapter 1. We're going to come back to it in chapter 3, because chapter 3, they're going to be at war. So, in the north, all right, so we'll go to our map. All right, so talking about things like the northern states and the southern states. So, in the north and in the south, they had very different views over the economy, over money. All right, economy, money. So in the north, they don't have slavery. In the south, they do. In the south, they get their money from growing crops, especially cotton. That is labour intensive. Right, to use a bit of a geography phrase, labour intensive. That means you need a lot of workers to be able to make a lot of profit, because things have to be picked by hand. So therefore, you need a lot of workers, but if you pay them, you don't get much profit. But if you have workers that you don't have to pay, i.e. slaves, then you've got more profit. And that's what's really driving it. And that's one of the things that really, really annoyed the North. It wasn't so much that slavery was morally wrong. Yes, some of them did have those views, and we'll look at those views in a moment. It was actually the fact that the South just got richer and richer and richer, and the North didn't, because the North had to pay their workers. Other differences, religious differences. In the North, you've got groups of people called Quakers and Methodists, people that interpret the Bible and quite rightly see that the Bible actually opposes slavery. Whereas down in the South, they look at the Bible and go, no, that fits, that's okay, we can keep our slaves. Right, so same book, different views. One in the North says, no, slavery is morally wrong. In the South, no, slavery's fine. Then you've got those political differences as well. Political means power, government, power. It was already an issue. It was already separating power between the North and the South. So very much saw that people down in the South had too much power. And they were very much worried that the South would take over and would be, the presidents, the Congress. It would just be too much power for the South. And if it was too much power in the South would only ever support what the South wanted, not what the North wanted. And remember, the North and South is very different. Then we've got the idea that America, as we know, is growing. We've touched on that already so far this chapter. So if America is growing, there we go to our map. Well, what are you going to do about slavery? Because the North will say, no, we don't want slavery to spread, whereas the South will say, yes, no, we do. So all of a sudden, we've got, as we know, tension, and it is getting more and more and more of an issue. New opportunities in the new territories equaled more problems. So slavery is becoming an increasing problem. There you go, great little quote, and you need to do some work on that quote about Thomas Jefferson. He calls it the wolf. Yeah, the wolf is slavery. We can neither hold him nor safely let him go. It divided America. What are we going to do about slavery? Remember, the North doesn't want it, the South does. That's going to be difficult. We've then got the fact that new bits of equipment, new bits of technology were being invented, right? That is our cotton gin there, right? This is the cotton gin. Look at how many slaves we've got here in this picture, and there would have been so many more. The cotton gin sped up the cleaning process of the cotton, and it sped it up 50 times. Which means if you can now produce clean cotton 50 times quicker, you will need more slaves to be able to pick that cotton to then use that bit of technology. So all of a sudden, the cotton gin enables slavery to increase. So this bit of technology means that slavery is going to increase even more because you need more cotton to be picked because you can now process it quicker. Right? And that's all explained in obviously those bits there. And lots of people caught onto that. People invested in this machinery. Made it more profitable. It wasn't going anywhere. Then we've got the Louisiana Purchase. We've looked at that already in chapter 1. All right, this absolute bargain purchase, $15 million. And they got a mere, let's remind ourselves, 530 million acres of land. Crazy. At the heart of the Louisiana Purchase was the port of New Orleans. That was at the heart of the Cotton Kingdom. The cotton was king. The cotton was power. And there was so much money to be made from cotton. Not just in America, but also exporting it to Europe as well. Look at that statistic there. Cotton made up 42% of all US exports. So near enough half of what left America to be sold overseas was cotton. Then we've got something called the Missouri Compromise. Remember I said the state of Missouri was going to become important? All right, and there it is on our map. So that was obviously purchased out of the territories. And then it's going to be created as a state. But the trouble is, what are we going to do with slavery? Because some people would say, actually, I want it to be a slave state. Some people say, no, I want it to be a free state. So Missouri, when it actually enters the Union, when it enters America, will join as a slave state. But it only joins because it has to join in a pair with Maine, which is up in the north. Yeah, this one here. So they've now figured out, right, we can try and keep everyone happy. Remember, that's what a compromise is, about keeping everyone happy. But often a compromise, no one's happy. And the way to have this compromise is if you're going to have one state being slave, then you've got to have one state being free, i.e. non-slave. But the trouble is with that, you're still spreading slavery. Even if you are just balancing it out, slavery is still spreading. And where's it going to spread? Even more. Come back to chapter 3. All right, so this lesson, remember, focused on the idea of the growth of slavery, the exploitation of African Americans, Black Americans, down in the South, and it does keep adding to the tension in America.